This week's coverage of the 2011 Yamaha YMF Lone Australian FX Superbike Championship comes from Eastern Creek International Raceway. It is round number 3, and on today's program we feature the ever-popular 125 GP Open Sports FX250, FX400 and Super Mono class, as well as the Formula Oz. The Red Baron Formula Oz bikes take to the track also. Will Hagan joins me in commentary. The Eastern Creek layout, of course, on screen now. Will, 12 corners, a very daunting task for most up-and-coming riders.
And indeed, and it's, of course, hosted the World Championship, the Australian round of the Motorcycle World Championships, and this weekend in glorious weather, hosting a very full program, nearly 180 riders in all the various categories for the FX Superbike Series.
We have 5 different classes in this race. Nicky Dials heads our field on the 125 Aprilia, the Grand Prix bike. Tim Pote alongside of him. You'll see 2 different grids there behind them, the Super Monos. So we have the 125s, which include the GPs, the sports class, the 250 and the FX400s, of course. One of those we're on board with now, Richard Maricini.
And the slowest accelerating class here at the meeting, but one of the best braking, fastest cornering classes of the lot, a purest Grand Prix bikes in terms of the 125s. And they've got cheaper, bigger engine bikes up against them, the 250s and 400s. And then the Super Monos in behind.
Looking back to the Super Monos now, starting 30 seconds behind the 125, 250 and 400s. Sean Geronimi getting the best of the start there. Right behind him, young Sepp Scarcella on the Yamaha.
Those guys with 450cc's, the front runners here, 125, but Grand Prix machinery. So 2 strokes and rev pretty hard and brake and corner like the thoroughbreds that they are.
A great array of different bikes out there in this front group of riders, including the Aprilia RSW 125 Grand Prix bikes of Nicky Dials and his teammate, of course, Mitch Levy, as well as the 125 sports category bike of Ryan Cuffer. We have the Moriwaki 250s being ridden by the likes of Lincoln Gilding, and then a gaggle of Kawasaki and Honda mounted 400s, and right behind them this exciting class, Will Hagan, as Sean Geronimi leads through YMI turn, young Sepp Scarcella in second place.
Absolutely, the Super Monos 450cc's, 5 different classes of bikes or brands of bikes here. We've got Honda and Yamaha and Suzuki, KTM and Husqvarna, so a real mix of machinery, the sort of machinery that's used in both the Dakar incredible race in South America these days, but also in the Fink Desert Race, where this year they had more than 500 bikes running. But up front, we've got the Grand Prix 125s, guys who want to be a wild card entry in the World Championship Grand Prix meeting at Phillip Island in October.
Something our race leader certainly aspires to do yet again. That's young Nicky Dials. We're on board with David Abbott at the moment on his Honda CBR 400 as he is under siege from one of the 250 Moriwakis. Trying to get up the inside of him is Lincoln Gilding from Queensland and manages to just get away with it.
Really interesting, the mix of bikes here, because we've got thoroughbred 125 Grand Prix bikes like the Aprilia. We've got what's called a sports bike, a 125 like the TZ125 Yamaha. And then these 250 and 400 4-strokes, more mumbo and grunt, but not the same cornering and braking power as the 125s that they can mix with. So it's a really interesting mix over the 5 laps of this race.
On board with Tim Pote coming down into YMI turn number 6 and 7 as they head up under the walkover bridge that used to take spectators over to the inside of Corporate Hill and down through turn number 8, KTM corner, as they hit the brakes hard and into the slowest corner on the circuit, Red Baron turn number 9. Look at this, 3 and 4 wide down into the entry.
Very tight there, asking a lot of the front end as the track falls away, and they're trying to get the power on early for a big run along Puma RV straight up to turns 11 and 12, this double apex series of corners. There's the first apex. Nothing changes, and then you come in and you get the second apex, and then you come out onto the straight YMF Lone Yamaha main straight.
This battle is way behind our race leader. This is for 6th and 7th placing at the moment as they head down. You've got David Capuana under siege from Tim Pote.
And a stream of bikes further back being headed at the moment on bike number 9 by Mitch Levy, doing a very good job and showing what a 125 Grand Prix bike can do.
back on board with David Abbott as he heads through turn number 1. You can see him looking around the outside of that visor and screen for the apex in turn number 2.
Tim Pod from Victoria is on 29. And Bill Horseman from South Australia, a great Australian motorcycle rider, once rode his Bull Tarka from South Oz to Bathurst to compete and then rode it home again. But distinguished that number with his rides at Bathurst and other places.
A good outside manoeuvre there from one of the riders trying to get around the outside, Michael Halliday.
Yeah. And look at these guys on the super monos, all handlebars and enthusiasm.
Up onto the back of the 125, 250 and 400 class comes our race leader in the super mono category, Sepp Scarcella on the Yamaha, as he leads multiple national dirt track champion Sean Geronimi on the Honda in second for that class.
If anybody needed any demonstration of why these would be good road bikes, here it is. Look at them sitting upright, full of control and comfort, and plenty of handlebars to wrestle with, and going past the thoroughbred race bikes on the what people used disparagingly to call chook chasers.
Well, Lachlan Measure and Stephen Craig there, I think they didn't know what to expect. They weren't expecting on board their Morawaki 250 and the Yamaha 400 to get these two super monos up the inside of the wheel.
They could have been clipped around the ear rolls from the handlebars as they went past. As we come on board with Nicky Dials, a very good runner, riding the right sort of bike for pure thoroughbred racing, as we look also at 17. That's Chris Cooney from New South Wales on his FX400 Honda.
Sean Geronimi used him to perfection there to get that block pass and a bit of a gap there on Sepp Scarcella. Scarcella unable to get up on the inside of him until he hit the main straight here. Now he's charging hard. Look at him hug the tank on the left-hand side with that left hand. Throttle stop wide open.
And yeah, getting the left hand off the handlebars to try and reduce the drag on the bike. Wonderful stuff here, all this mix of classes working very well as we hook up with, on bike number 11, Paul Campbell from the Australian Capital Territory. Red bike motorcycle paint, red back at least.
Lincoln Gilding doing a good job there on the machine number 71, the Morawaki 250, to get up another place or two and put him in contention to end up with a podium finish.
Tim Pott been rounded up on his FX400 Honda, bike number 29. And this is the interesting comparison with these bikes, that the smaller engine bikes are very handy around the corners and under brakes. And those 450 super monos doing a marvellous job as we come in now and look at Nicky Dials on the Aprilia RSW 125. Not a cheap bike, but a very quick one, and a very good, well-ridden too.
Fantastic effort there from Nicky Dials. Certainly streaked the field, finishing almost one straight length ahead of Ryan Cuffer on the Sports 125. Lincoln Gilding on the Morawaki 250, followed home by Mitch Levy and Mitch Halliday. Rounding up the top 6 is Tim Pope.
Big gap back from Nicky Dials to Ryan Cuffer leading this bunch. Right, Lincoln Golding in with him, Mitch Levy, Michael Halliday and Tim Pod on 29. And that's the way they finished. Down to 6th place, David Capuano. In 7th place, Tony Sims rounding out the top 10. And further back, tail end of the field, Sepp Scarcella winning the Super Mono class, coming in 20th.
Nicky Dials, congratulations, a fantastic effort. The old girl certainly came to its fore in that one.
Yeah, good old Faithful went really sweet out there. Just having a few issues just with tyre temperature. I was losing the front end out there a little bit, as well as the back end was very twitchy, and we come in and just check the temperatures of tyres and they're real down on temperature, so we're thinking of changing compound for the next race. But it performed great out there, felt good out there, still a little sore from yesterday's crash, but wasn't affecting me much out there, and I'd like to thank all the competition. Thank you.
Well, Ryan Cuffer, congratulations, the first of the sports class 125s and second outright. You must be pretty chuffed.
I'm very chuffed. Starting from the rear of the grid again and working my way through. Link's been riding really well, a lot of close Dyson, so that's what it's all about, really.
Yeah, it's really good. We had an awesome race with Ryan and a couple of 400s there. Just pushing as hard as I can, really sliding everywhere, so got a bit of work to do for the next race. I'd like to thank Mix Fix for the helmet today, K1 Racing, Northern Volks Racing, all the guys for the good competition, and Formula Extreme. Thanks.
4 different classes, leading the Thoroughbred 125 Grand Prix, Nicky Dials from Mitch Levy, his teammate. The 125 Sports, Ryan Cuffer doing a very good job on a much cheaper bike. 250 Morawaki, Tony Sims from Lincoln Gilding. And FX400, Craig Goldsmith getting onto a smaller bike.
Fantastic action here from Eastern Creek continues on the other side of this break with the ever popular Red Baron Formula Oz. Don't go too far away.